Betrayal. It's the one wound that never really heals. The kind that makes a man question everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and trust. You see, when a man betrays, it's usually obvious. It's impulsive, sloppy, driven by desire or ego. But when a woman betrays, it's different. It's quiet, calculated, hidden behind soft eyes and familiar smiles. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because when a woman betrays, she doesn't just break your trust, she rewrites history. She convinces herself she had no choice, that it was you who made her do it, that she was lonely, unappreciated, unloved. And by the time you find out, she's already rewritten the story in her head. You're the villain, and she's the victim who had to save herself. But here's the real truth. Women don't betray for fun. They betray for power. And power, for them, has always been about survival. For thousands of years, a woman's security depended on choosing the right man. The strongest, the most capable, the one who could protect and provide. That instinct still lives inside her, buried deep beneath modern words like freedom and independence. So when she feels that power slipping, when you start losing your edge, when your focus fades, when she no longer feels that you're the man she can lean on, something ancient in her awakens. She starts scanning, testing, searching. Not consciously, but instinctively. And if she finds what she's missing somewhere else, emotional validation, attention, excitement, or the feeling of being desired again, betrayal doesn't feel like betrayal. It feels like justice. That's the dark psychology no one wants to talk about. A man's betrayal is a choice. A woman's betrayal is a reaction. But the result is the same. Destruction disguised as self-discovery. And the reason she hides it so well isn't because she's malicious. It's because she's emotional camouflage. Her entire psychology is built around reading people, adapting, blending. She can betray and still look you in the eye. Not because she's heartless, but because she's compartmentalized. She believes two things at once. That she's still a good person, and that she did what she had to do. That's why men never see it coming. Because when a man feels guilty, it shows. When a woman feels guilty, she rationalizes. This isn't a hate message, it's a warning. Because once you understand the psychology behind her betrayal, the biology, the emotion, the quiet logic, you stop seeing it as random cruelty. You start seeing it as a pattern. And in this video, we're going to break that pattern down, piece by piece. Why women betray, why they do it so calmly, and why most men never even realize it happened until it's far too late. This isn't about revenge. It's about awareness. Because betrayal isn't the end of the story. It's the mask that hides the truth underneath. To most men, it feels like chaos, sudden, irrational, cruel. But from her side, it's often cold, deliberate, and frighteningly logical. Because for a woman, betrayal isn't always born from lust, it's born from fear. You see, a man betrays for pleasure, a woman betrays for survival. That's the fundamental difference, and the reason hers cuts deeper. Female betrayal doesn't begin in the body, it begins in the mind, in her psychology. A woman's emotional wiring is built around one primal question. Am I safe? Safe emotionally, socially, financially. Safe in his strength. And when that safety starts to erode, when she senses emotional distance, weakness, or loss of direction, something ancient inside her activates. It's not always conscious, but it's powerful. Deep down, she begins scanning, testing, evaluating her options. Not because she's evil, but because her biology was shaped by generations of women who couldn't afford to trust a man who was losing control. Her betrayal isn't rebellion, it's instinct. Think of it like this. When a man loses his edge, she doesn't just feel bored, she feels unsafe. And when she feels unsafe, Her emotions begin to detach from him and redirect towards something or someone that feels more stable, more exciting, more alive. That's why female betrayal often comes after emotional decay, not physical neglect. She starts withholding affection, not because she's heartless, but because her subconscious is protecting her from deeper disappointment. She starts fantasizing about other men, not for attention, but to remind herself she still has value, that she could survive without you. Every betrayal is a mirror reflecting her inner conflict, the desire for safety versus the craving for excitement. And when a man stops embodying both, strength and unpredictability, she feels trapped. Her biology tells her to escape before it's too late. This is the dark psychology most men never see. They think betrayal means she wanted someone else. But often, betrayal means she stopped believing in you. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because she doesn't betray in a burst of emotion. She betrays in silence, calmly, methodically, almost peacefully. By the time she acts, she's already detached months ago. To her, betrayal isn't destruction. It's self-preservation. It's her psyche saying, he's not the man I can follow anymore. So when she finally crosses the line, emotionally, physically, or both, it's not a sudden act of disloyalty. It's the final move in a long psychological shift that began the moment she lost respect. And that's why men almost never see it coming. Because when a woman betrays, she doesn't do it out of chaos. She does it with clarity, with calculation, and with a terrifying calm that only comes when she's already made peace with her decision. This isn't cruelty. It's instinct wrapped in emotion. And understanding that instinct is the first step to seeing betrayal for what it really is. Not a mistake, but a signal. If there's one thing that separates male betrayal from female betrayal, it's this. Men get caught. Women don't. When a man betrays, it's impulsive, sloppy, driven by lust or ego. He's not thinking about being careful. He's thinking about being satisfied. But when a woman betrays, it's psychological warfare. It's premeditated. It's covered in layers of emotional camouflage so precise that even the most observant man won't see it until it's already over. And here's why. Women have spent their entire lives mastering the art of emotional disguise. From a young age, they're taught how to smile through discomfort, how to hide anger behind sweetness, how to say, "I'm fine," when they're anything but. They learn that their survival depends on emotional perception, reading people, adjusting tone, calibrating reactions. By adulthood, that intuition becomes almost supernatural. So when she betrays you, emotionally or physically, she doesn't need to lie directly. She lies through omission, through timing, through tone. She'll still text you good morning, still ask about your day, still laugh at your jokes, but every word is a decoy, because she knows that consistency disarms suspicion. And that's the frightening part. When a woman hides betrayal, she doesn't act guilty. She acts normal, because she's already rewritten the story in her mind. You see, men hide betrayal because they feel shame. Women hide betrayal because they feel justified. She's already convinced herself it's your fault, that you stopped trying, that you made her feel invisible, that she deserves to feel something again. And once that narrative is in place, her mask becomes impenetrable. Even her friends might not know, because she won't risk judgment. She compartmentalizes, separating the woman who loves you from the woman who's betraying you. One cooks your dinner, the other texts another man, and she sees no contradiction. That's the duality most men never understand. She can betray you and still care about you. She can be affectionate and deceptive in the same breath. Because her emotional world isn't built on logic. It's built on self-preservation. And here's where it gets darker. Women are experts at reading micro-emotions. She'll know when you start to suspect something. She'll sense it in your tone, in your hesitation, in the way your eyes linger too long. And she'll immediately adapt. She'll cry. She'll accuse you of not trusting her. She'll play the victim so convincingly that you'll end up apologizing to her for doubting. That's not manipulation, that's instinctual defense. Because for her, exposure means danger, losing security, stability, image. So she hides it the only way she knows how, perfectly. Until one day, she doesn't need to hide anymore. Because by the time you realize it, she's already gone. A man lies to protect himself. A woman lies to protect her world. And that difference is what makes her betrayal nearly impossible to detect. When a man betrays, guilt follows him like a shadow. He knows he crossed a line. His conscience reminds him every time he looks her in the eyes. But when a woman betrays, guilt doesn't hit the same way. It doesn't come crashing down. It's rewritten, reshaped, and redefined. Because for her, betrayal is rarely seen as wrong. It's seen as necessary. That's the difference between guilt and rationalization. Guilt says, I hurt someone I love. Rationalization says, he hurt me first. I just reacted. And this is where female psychology becomes terrifyingly complex. A woman can betray you, emotionally, physically, psychologically, and still see herself as the victim. In her mind, the story doesn't go, I cheated. It goes, he stopped caring. He stopped listening. I needed to feel alive again. Her guilt doesn't disappear. It evolves. She converts it into justification. Because a woman's self-image is deeply tied to being good, to being loyal, nurturing, loving. So when her actions clash with that identity, her mind does what it must to protect her self-perception. It rewrites the story. This process happens subconsciously. She starts telling herself she was emotionally abandoned, that you changed, that she tried for months, years even, and you didn't respond. By reframing the past, she makes her betrayal reasonable. Not a betrayal, a response. It's not about cruelty. It's about survival of the ego. A woman can't carry the weight of being the villain in her own story, so she paints herself as the wounded one. And once that narrative takes root, she believes it with absolute conviction. That's why she can look you in the eye after betraying you and still say, I never meant to hurt you. And she's telling the truth from her version of reality. But here's what most men don't understand. That same rationalization also keeps her from ever fully feeling remorse. Because remorse would mean admitting she destroyed something pure. Rationalization allows her to believe she simply escaped something broken. Even when the affair ends, even when the lies unravel, she won't call it betrayal. She'll call it finding herself. She needed to grow. She had to do what was right for her. That's the power of emotional justification. It turns destruction into self-discovery. And it's not just about relationships. It's about identity. Because if she admits she betrayed you out of weakness or desire, she'd have to face the truth that her emotions, not her morals, dictated her choices. That truth is unbearable, so she hides it. Not from you, from herself. She'll build a wall of logic to keep guilt from seeping through. But deep down, she knows. She knows she crossed a line that can never truly be uncrossed. And no amount of rationalization can silence that small, whispering voice that says, you broke something that will never be the same again. When most men think of betrayal, they think of physical cheating, messages, lies, another man. But that's not where it begins. Betrayal starts long before the body ever gets involved. It begins in silence, in distance, in the subtle withdrawal of emotional energy. A woman's first betrayal isn't physical. It's emotional. And it's almost invisible. It begins the moment she stops feeling connected to you. When admiration turns into routine. When passion turns into politeness. She doesn't stop loving you overnight. She just stops investing. At first, you won't even notice it. The same woman who once hung on your every word now seems distracted. Her eyes drift when you talk. Her responses grow shorter. She's still there physically, but mostly on my jam. Shan, the mai chionai, she's somewhere else. This is the phase where she starts building walls, not with anger, but with indifference. She starts protecting her emotions, saving them for something. Or someone. That might reignite the feeling she's lost. She might still cook your dinner, still tell you she loves you, still lie next to you at night, but inside, she's detached. Her mind is replaying memories of when she felt desired, excited, alive. She's wondering where that version of you, the one who made her feel safe yet thrilled, disappeared to. And while you're busy thinking everything's fine, she's quietly rewriting her emotional reality. She starts opening up to other people, not sexually, but emotionally. A co-worker who listens, a friend who makes her laugh, a stranger online who reminds her she's still attractive. It starts with harmless conversations. But every harmless word she shares with another man is a piece of intimacy she's no longer giving to you. This is what most men miss. Betrayal begins the moment she seeks emotional validation elsewhere. Because once she starts doing that, it's only a matter of time before emotion becomes attraction, and attraction becomes action. By the time she crosses the line physically, she's already justified it in her head. She's already convinced herself you've neglected her, that she deserves to feel something again. And when she finally betrays, it doesn't feel wrong. It feels like balance. That's why female betrayal is so hard to detect. It's not fueled by lust or impulse. It's fueled by emotional starvation. And when she hides it, it's not because she's a master manipulator. It's because in her mind, she's not doing something wrong. She's doing something necessary. Emotional betrayal is the silent prelude to the collapse of every relationship. By the time she stops reaching for your hand, by the time she starts saying nothing's wrong, by the time she stops caring enough to argue, she's already gone. Most men never realize it until it's too late, because she doesn't leave when she walks out the door. She leaves when she stops feeling anything at all. Every man believes he'll see it coming. He thinks he'll notice the change, the tone in her voice, the shift in her behavior, the late nights and the quiet distance. But most men don't. Not because they're blind, but because they're wired to trust. Men are logical creatures. They believe in consistency, evidence, and reason. If she says everything's fine, they take it at face value. If she still kisses them goodnight, they assume nothing's wrong. What they don't realize is that betrayal doesn't announce itself. It unfolds silently, behind smiles and small talk. The male blind spot begins with complacency. He believes loyalty is a fixed trait, that once he's earned it, it's permanent. But women don't experience connection through logic. They experience it through feeling. And when those feelings fade, loyalty fades with them. That's why so many men are blindsided. They mistake her routine for reassurance. They think, she wouldn't do that, or she's not like that. But every woman has a breaking point, not because she's evil, but because she's human. And emotional neglect can starve a person just as much as betrayal can wound them. The second blind spot is emotional naivety. Men underestimate just how emotionally adaptable women are. While men need distance to think, women process emotion in motion, talking, connecting, confiding. So when she starts sharing her frustrations with someone else, a friend, a co-worker, an old flame, she's not just venting. She's transferring emotional energy. And once that transfer happens, she's no longer yours emotionally. It's only a matter of time before that connection deepens into something more. The third blind spot is denial. Men see the signs, the subtle changes, the loss of intimacy, the quiet resentment, but they ignore them because facing the truth hurts more than pretending. So, They rationalize. She's just stressed. She's going through a phase. She still loves me. She's just tired. But deep down, they know something's wrong. They just hope it'll fix itself. The truth? It never does. By the time a man finally sees it clearly, she's already gone. Mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically. He's left trying to piece together the timeline, searching for clues, asking himself, how did I miss it? The answer is simple. Because she didn't want you to see it. And because you wanted to believe she never could. Men think betrayal is something that happens to them. But more often, it's something they allow through emotional blindness. Through ignoring the changes, the tests, the silence. The male blind spot isn't a flaw. It's the price men pay for believing in love without understanding psychology. Because while men fall in love with who she is, women fall in love with how he makes them feel. And when that feeling dies and he doesn't notice, that's when betrayal begins. Betrayal is one of the most painful things a man can experience, but it can also be one of the most powerful awakenings. Because once you've seen the truth about how and why betrayal happens, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to being naive. You evolve or you collapse. Awareness is the antidote. The moment you stop seeing women as villains and start understanding the psychology driving their actions, you take back power. Because power doesn't come from control, it comes from clarity. Once you understand that women betray not for excitement but for emotional survival, everything changes. You stop asking, why did she do this to me? And start asking, what did I allow to die in myself that made this possible? And that's where transformation begins. The first step is emotional sovereignty. You must reclaim your emotional stability from anyone else's behavior. When your sense of worth rises and falls with how she treats you, you've already lost frame. But when you become the calm center of your own storm, grounded, unreactive, unshaken, betrayal no longer breaks you. It refines you. The second step is detachment. Not coldness, strength. Detachment means you can love fully without becoming dependent. You can care deeply without collapsing when someone withdraws. Because love rooted in need always breeds fear, and fear is what blinds men. When you detach, you see clearly. You recognize the small shifts, the emotional distance, the subtle disrespect, the manipulative tests, not as personal attacks, but as data. You respond with leadership, not emotion. You stay centered. And in that steadiness, respect is either rebuilt or lost forever. Either way, you stay whole. The third step is purpose. A man anchored in purpose is immune to emotional chaos. When your energy is focused on mission, growth, strength, legacy, you stop orbiting her moods. You become the gravitational force again. And women instinctively respect that. They're drawn to it, because it's rare. Finally, you must develop psychological awareness. Study human nature. Observe patterns, not words. Understand that emotions drive behavior, not logic. The man who understands this doesn't get manipulated. He reads the game while everyone else is playing blindfolded. Awareness turns pain into power. It transforms heartbreak into insight, rejection into redirection. Because once you see betrayal for what it is, a reflection of shifting power, fading polarity, and emotional imbalance, you stop taking it personally. You stop trying to win her back. You focus on winning yourself back. And when you do, something unexpected happens. You no longer fear betrayal. You respect it. As a test, a lesson, a mirror. In the end, betrayal doesn't destroy strong men. It forges them. Because a man who's been betrayed and awakened becomes untouchable. He no longer chases loyalty. He commands it, simply by becoming the kind of man no one wants to lose. Every betrayal starts with an imbalance of power, but not the kind you can see. It's not about money or status or who makes more decisions. It's about emotional control. At the start of every relationship, the man leads with certainty. He's confident, focused, decisive. The woman follows that energy instinctively because it makes her feel safe and desired. That's what creates attraction. Polarity. But over time, something subtle begins to change. The man starts seeking her approval more than he seeks his purpose. He begins catering to her moods instead of leading with his mission. And slowly the power dynamic shifts. She feels it instantly, the invisible transfer of authority. Where he once provided direction, now he waits for her cues. Where he once inspired emotion, now he reacts to hers. And the woman, even if she doesn't consciously realize it, starts to test him. Not because she's cruel, because her biology is wired to. Women test the strength of a man's frame the same way the world tests the strength of a leader. They need to know, can he handle me? Can he handle life? Can he handle pressure without collapsing? And when a man fails those tests, when he becomes emotionally reactive, when he prioritizes peace over power, when he turns affection into negotiation, her respect begins to erode. That's when the psychological setup for betrayal begins, because a woman can't respect a man she feels she can control. And when respect dies, connection follows. Once the power dynamic flips, betrayal becomes her subconscious way of restoring balance. By betraying, she regains the power she feels she lost, not over him, but over herself. It's her way of saying, if he won't lead, I'll take control. This isn't about revenge, it's about equilibrium. Because deep down, a woman doesn't want dominance, she wants direction. But when a man gives her control of the emotional dynamic, she can't help but use it. And power used without polarity always leads to chaos. She starts playing with emotional distance, pulling away, withholding affection, becoming unpredictable. Each act of withdrawal feeds her sense of control. Each moment of confusion on his part validates her power. It's not always malicious. Often, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. But emotionally, she feels alive again. Because the man who once steadied her now feels unstable. And that instability gives her back the spark she's been craving. Most men respond by chasing harder, begging, promising to change. But every time he does that, he confirms what she already suspects, that she's in control. The truth is brutal but simple. A woman's respect doesn't die when you make mistakes. It dies when she realizes she's the one leading emotionally. And once that happens, betrayal isn't a question of if, it's a question of when.